This episode of Lords of the Storm is brought to you by our sponsors over at Patreon, where you, yes you, can also support the show. Just head over to patreon.com/Lords of the Storm to become a patron today.
Heroes, gather tribute and earn my favor. What do you say? Are you ready to begin?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 184 of Lords of the Storm. I'm out of breath. Heroes of the Storm podcast. My name is Greg Gizmozord Parker, and I'm joined tonight, of course, by the Zord Lords themselves, Mr. Kevin Multizord Ellis and Ryan TBK Zord Reader. And on this week's episode, the world of podcasts is back at the con before the storm. We find out what BlizzCon goodies await us in the Nexus. The newest event has been announced, and there are just a few changes coming our way as we talk patch notes, both live and PTR. Just a few. Very few.
Right. It's a very light news episode.
It's really not a. This will probably be over in like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
real short. Plus, there's a lot more to talk about. So, before we get into that stuff, we'll see how the fellows are doing tonight. TBK, how are you doing? What have you been up to?
I'm doing wonderfully. I have been up to Heroes of the Storm.
Huh?
A little bit of WoW.
A little bit about.
Sure.
A lot of Heroes. A lot of PTR, actually.
I am intrigued
I don't know
on your
why
thoughts
it was
on PTR.
I don't know why I was on PTR so much. I mean, there barely anything changed, so I'm not sure why I spent so much time on there. But you know, just playing, testing out some stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Does the
Looking
PTR
forward.
have a permanent Garden of Terror?
Yes.
Every game? Okay. I might get on there then.
So I'm very intrigued by your thoughts then.
Yeah.
But
I've played it quite a few times now.
Okay, very good. Multi, how about you? What have you been up to, and how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. A little exhausted though. The kid has decided that teething is more difficult than he previously thought, so we're working on that one. But no, I'm doing well. I've been playing some heroes when I can, and now that I know that there's another event coming up that I'm really pumped for, which we'll get into in a second here, I'm back in that mode where I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the heroes, looking at their experience bars, and saying, all right, who can I get really close to clocking over to the next level so I can just rake in a few chests when I start off the event there. So, and honestly, like, anytime this happens with these events come around, I'm generally pretty excited about that fact. Just the fact that, like, you know, I have something I can kind of work on to sort of min-max my way through the game as a mostly free-to-play player. And it's just fun to, like, play again a nice variety of heroes and just kind of crush that out a little bit. So that is my plan until this thing actually drops.
Yeah. It's funny because it's getting to the point. I do the same thing. It's like, you know, prepare your task list to fully maximize the events. But it's starting to get to where it's not as easy to do. You know?
Because you've got such high levels on everybody.
Yeah, it's starting to get up there.
Yeah, that's true.
So
You can still look at it and think through, okay, well, you know, this guy's 13 and 3/4 versus someone who's, you know, 14 and 6/8 or something, and then try to reason through, okay, I need this much experience for this guy, this much for that guy. You know, I mean, there's still some stuff you can do. But yeah, no, it is true. You have to really plan it out, especially as they get in the higher numbers.
But yeah, we'll see what we can do there. See what bundles come out as well to help offset that. But as we said, I guess, you know, myself. I have been busy per usual, but I made it my goal this week. So I talked last week, my gaming time, no surprise there. But I made it my goal to finally, I sat down and I hit 120 in World of Warcraft with my druid.
I'm so proud.
Oh my gosh, you know, I did, like, people just kept telling me, like, hey, yo, just, you know, slow down, enjoy the content. You're going too fast, like setting world records here. So overall,
world first, Gahoon. Gizmozord.
Yeah.
It's part of Method, actually.
But I again, this expansion, I know there's a lot of gripes about it. But as far as, which I haven't been experiencing that stuff yet because I just at max level. But as far as the leveling process, it's been my favorite expansion in quite some time, I think, going through the leveling zones. And then, so I'm going to work on that. And then also, I think, level a Horde tune, which is cool.
Yes. Yeah, it's way cool. In fact, cooler, one might argue.
One could argue 100% cooler.
I don't know about that. Maybe
so on the subject of WoW, real quick. So Ian Hazzikostas released a video, I think it was today, if not yesterday, right? It was yesterday, detailing a little bit more about what the next patch is going to be and that sort of thing. And in the broadest strokes, so without giving away a lot of spoilers or anything, if you're holding back on this kind of thing, it's just that the Alliance is starting to retaliate back after some of the events, Battle for Lordaeron, of course, the burning of Teldrassil and that sort of thing. And so I was listening to Ian go through that whole deal. And I mean, I realize that this game is a fantasy world in which you can play as a cow that rides on a chicken and you fight space monsters and all these things. But honestly, like, of everything they've ever come out with in terms of content for this game, this next patch seems like it's the least realistic, because there's no way the Alliance would be able to fight back against the Horde. That's not even a thing.
Yep, it's true.
Whatever.
Just saying.
I told you guys about our plan that one time, how we can just say what it is because it's so blatantly obvious, but the Horde still won't understand it. Like, you guys are still falling for it. It's adorable. But not speaking about World of Warcraft, but you brought up Ian Hazzikostas. I think it's a cool thing worth mentioning because, Multi, you pointed it out in our Zord chat about the video of Ian talking about his journey like into the gaming industry and how he's gotten to where he is.
Oh, yeah.
If that interests anyone, that like sort of thing, definitely check it out. It is on YouTube. I should probably try and find the link to that instead of I just have you looking for it. But it's like 50.
Yeah, we can get it in the show notes.
It's like 55 minutes. But it's for those that don't know, he was a lawyer before he joined Blizzard, so it's really just interesting talk, and he's a cool guy. But Heroes of the Storm. Getting a few more Mephisto games in. I haven't played him since the nerfs, which we will get into. And I also want to make it my goal this week to not only get on the PTR because they're, one of my girls is there, and I'm pretty excited about what she may be like now. And then also I want to check out the Toronto stuff because I still haven't checked out her changes since she went full support, even though she got some changes as well this week because those are the only two. That's it. No one else got changes.
No. Super minor.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go ahead and get on into the news, though. All right. First up, Con Before the Storm is back, and along with it, World of Podcasts making its return. In this year, we have the pod before the cons, kind of getting everyone pumped up. We have World of Warcraft, we have Overwatch, we have other ones, another one I'm not being able to think of for some reason. But then we have the important ones. Well, one more important than the other, but there's two important ones.
Wait a minute, what?
I don't know if I'm making any sense right now. There's a Heroes of the Storm panel at World of Podcasts.
There you go.
Which is going to be on the 1st, which is the Thursday at 6:15. If you're there and you want to check it out, you probably should. But it will be featuring from Core, Scott Johnson, John Jagger, and Bo Schwartz. From Gankbush Squad, Bacon. From Heroes News with Jules Scott. Jules from... Yes.
Specifically, Scott. There are other Juleses out there. I'm certain of this, but... Yes.
But Jules Scott, yeah. From Into the Nexus, Kyle Ferguson, and from Lords of the Storm, yours truly, TBK and Gizmo. And you may be thinking, where's Multi at? What's he doing? I'll tell you what he's doing. Actually, Multi, you can tell him what you're doing.
Perhaps I shall. So right after that panel, there's another superior panel that takes place, of course, the Hearthstone panel. In fact, so I'll be representing Hearth Casual on that one. And we've got a series of other shows. We'll link, of course, the website here detailing the rest of it. Definitely more of a variety of shows in the Hearthstone section, but that's quite all right. Got some good shows representing heroes there for you guys, and yeah, it's just gonna be a good time. You know, I mean, I missed out on this whole thing last year, just because baby stuff. But yeah, this time just going back to BlizzCon and again being able to have a part in all this, I'm yet again flattered and honored and just happy to throw down. It is kind of funny though. So I did Overwatch for the Cavalry 2 years ago, right? And I'm doing Hearthstone now. I haven't actually represented this show yet. That's interesting, but hey, whatever. It's all good.
You're just more well-rounded than we are. We're
That's just it.
We have one niche.
I'm a better Blizzard fan than both of you combined. I'll just throw that out there.
It's true.
Just saying.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. Except I've never played StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys have much either. So
I have not. I've tried multiple times. I'll probably try again. Probably fail again.
See, I've not even tried. So there you
go. But since the Heroes one is mainly dominated by Core and Lords of the Storm, I can give you a brief rundown what it's going to be about. It's going to be about we're going to let you know what's going on in the latest store sales, and also do some trivia. So
yep, that's probably about it.
Yeah, that's it.
Really,
there's going to be an Ask Martha and or letters to Martha.
But again, yeah, it's World of Podcasts. One of the best parts about BlizzCon really is neat. Even if you don't go to the World of Podcast stuff, everything there is super cool. But you should go to the World of Podcast stuff if you're there.
Yeah, you should.
We're there.
But there's a meet and greet. There's an art gallery. A lot of the devs usually end up going there.
Yeah.
So you can walk around, and they're super friendly. They're there to talk to people. It's a great pre-BlizzCon event. So if you haven't gone before,
as the official formal dinner for them again? Are they doing that at the same time to go?
I believe that is.
Usually
the one year that
was the same night.
That was pretty much across the hall that one year, at least 2 years ago. And so yeah, a few of them just swung by because they're already in the hood. So
for sure. But there is no CTR or Well Played party this year. So which was on a different night. Wait, was it? Yeah.
Aren't they typically on the Friday night?
That was Friday night. Mm-hmm. But still, so we're gonna turn it into the big old CTR party. Everyone's CTR is gonna be there.
Sure. But what are we doing Friday night now?
There's so much. Yeah, I'm sure Wowhead and there's everything.
If you've never been to BlizzCon before, there's always something to do every night.
I know.
Yeah. There's always.
I was torn between 5 things last time, so I get it, but still.
So speaking of BlizzCon, we mentioned the goodie bags, physical goodie bags last week. In the PTR, we have seen what is going to be the Heroes of the Storm goodies with the codes, and they're pretty neat. I would say this is probably the coolest of the gears I have seen in Heroes. We're getting a freaking mecha shark mount.
That's right, we are.
The one thing they are missing, and I can't believe this, is a laser beam on the head.
You just want a freaking laser beam on their freaking heads.
It's true. It just needs to shoot.
Yeah.
Just little pew pews as you go.
At least it's not a sea bass.
Just have a laser that points in front of where you're going, a few feet or something. But what they can do to remedy this is actually just make another version for the actual shark mount, because technically the laser shouldn't be on the mecha one. It should be on the actual shark, and just mount a laser beam there. So.
You sound very much like Dr. Evil, but yes, I'm all for it.
I'm all for Laser Shark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The banner is cool. It's a mecha shark coming out of a mecha water portal, holding a BlizzCon banner in its mouth. I can get down with that. There is a spray and an icon of all mecha sharks. You cannot have too much mecha shark.
Is there a message here? Is there something we can interpret from their choice of animal or the theming of this? I'm guessing not, because last year we had it was that boar, right? And then it didn't have anything to do with either the dragons revealed or anything like that. But
I bet this means
vaguely wondering
that the Heroes announcements are going to be Jawesome
And they're gonna have mecha skin variations.
I hope so. I hope you're both right. God,
They'll be Jawesome, or they could be jaw dropping.
Jawful. They
Or
could be
Jawful. That's true.
Oh
boy.
Oh wow.
Episode title: Jawesome or Jawful? Question mark.
There we go.
There we go.
Write it down.
I am. Trust me.
The Fall of King's Crest. Newest event coming to Heroes of the Storm. This is going to be our Halloween event. It's going to be running September 25th through October 15th. A little weird to me that it doesn't go through Halloween. I don't know if previous years did or not, but I don't know. That's just weird to me.
I seem to think that they did. So yeah, it is a little strange. But I mean, it's also not, even though it totally is, it's not billed as a Halloween event per se either.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a fall event, hence the Fall of King's Crest, which, nice little play on words there. But yeah, no, they're definitely bringing back the ability to get all the old Halloween skins, as well as having some new ones for sure. So
yeah, it is the Halloween loot chests.
Yeah, it is.
Like the old or the original Halloween loot chest style.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
And
talking about this in
there's a few
Discord.
grave sprays.
Oh yeah, always good.
Well,
but no. So we were talking about this in Discord a little bit. Do we think, they're bringing back the Hollow's End chests? Do we think that they're going to weight them a little bit better this time to where the newer skins, newer content has a better chance of dropping than the old? Or are we going to have another summer issue as we did this past summer?
I would hope that they learned from that, especially because
I think so.
there's even less stuff in this event, I think, to get.
Total, yeah.
So
Yeah, I would hope they would weight it a little bit more towards the new stuff, because it never feels good to release all these cool new skins. And let me tell you, these 4 skins they're putting out are amazing.
Oh yeah,
Like they're so good. But yeah, it never feels good to show off all the shininess and then just never get it.
Yeah.
Any of it in your loot chest. So I'm hoping so.
I know we've talked about solutions to that before. I don't know if we ever thought about the idea, and maybe it's like a systems issue, but why not, whenever you get in a chest in an event like this, whenever you click to open it, you just get the option of new stuff or old stuff, like previous stuff. That way, if you get everything in the new that you want, like you can go back and try and get some of that old stuff. Or
seems
if you just
good,
want the
but
old stuff. Because you're still
I
wanting
like
to
the
grind
idea
out
because-
either way.
I mean,
No,
just
yeah.
actually looking at this, there's a lot more content than it looks like, because there's 4 new skins. Each skin has 3 tints. There's 2 new iPad mount skins. There's, for the first time in forever, 3 new banners. We haven't
All
got
of which
new
are really
banners,
cool, actually.
yeah, in a long time. And then there's like 40-ish different portraits.
Mm-hmm.
And then another 20 different sprays, plus a copper pig mount, new tints for Bewitching Brightwing, which is the Brightwing with the little witch hat, and the Spectral Countess Kerrigan, and 3 new announcer packs. So there's actually quite a bit of decent.
There is.
There's a decent amount of stuff.
I feel like there was still more in the summer stuff. I could be wrong, as far as sprays, but the copper pig.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I got the gold pig. I don't need the copper pig.
I might need the copper pig, honestly. But no. So the other thing I really like about this content drop too is there's actually a lot of love for Nexus specific characters. I mean, some of these portraits are the Ravenlord, Lady of Thorns. You even get down into some of the sprays are the same. Announcer packs, we got Queen Nightshade, Blackheart, and Lady of Thorns. So I mean, I guess in a way you're just kind of carrying their voices over into levels that normally don't have their voices. But I mean, that's cool. So I don't know, the more of the stuff that I see, the more honestly I am starting to like these Nexus specific characters. And I'm thinking about kind of re-skinning my loadouts to just kind of represent that a little bit, because I feel like they will otherwise be a little underrepresented, only because these heroes aren't actually playable in the game,
Yeah.
But yeah, to have everything that I rock just be Ravenlord themed, at least for a while, maybe during the event, I could see a bit. I might do it.
Fair enough.
Oh, are you not fighting to save King's Crest?
Oh, heck no. No. Dude, bring up the Dark Nexus because who cares? Destroy Alterac Pass because who cares? And then destroy King's
Yeah,
Crest
guys,
because
let's just burn
whatever.
Teldrassil because that's not going to have any consequences whatsoever. Let's just burn the life.
I haven't been any so far.
Cool.
I haven't seen any problems since then.
I am
Lord went fine.
I am super digging the Alexstrasza, the Whitemane, and the Zarya skins.
Oh yeah. Well, and my Ev too. I mean, I think they're the best in slot skins of each one. Because like these are amazing. It's also I also love that they came out with a Whitemane skin like this so early too. Sometimes when a newer hero comes out, we don't really get a really exciting new skin for a while. But here's one where it definitely is.
And it has a mount that's a broom because she's a witch, and it's got a little kitty that rides on the back. So.
And then that broom is also her staff. So I'm guessing the animation of like switching that around is pretty cool. Hopefully.
Where does the cat go?
No, you don't want to know.
Fair, touche.
It hides inside the broom.
There is more stuff coming with this. So on September 24th, we will be getting issue number 3 of the comics that we've been getting. I'm a little upset they called this The Fall of King's Crest because I feel like I know what's happening before this comic comes out.
Oh yeah, it's
like
a spoiler.
There's no surprise. I feel like King's Crest is going to fall,
unless it doesn't.
Yeah, unless it doesn't, Greg.
Yeah, and then it'll
because some of us are going to fight against the Raven Lord.
Yeah,
to defend King's Crest.
You realize that the Raven Lord opens and closes every show we do, right?
It's true. Yeah, they're trolling us, and the event actually is going to be titled because the comic comes out the day before it starts. It's going to be The Fall of King's Crest. JK. Got him. I don't know, but
the other thing that kind of
hope it's not called
too.
That would be a terrible name.
But I'm excited for the comic. We've had the discussion of feels like maybe there's a little bit longer of a gap than we first thought there was going to be between content like this. So it's always good to get a new one of those. But
that's definitely true. I mean, it being this late into the year as we are now, it is kind of hard to piece together a true story that's at least in any sort of long form that we can kind of like think through and speculate on. I mean, I had hoped that the content drops would be a little more frequent and that we could have more of the lores of the Storm segments where we're kind of digging into all that stuff. So it has been a little underwhelming in that sense. But again, I mean, being on the verge of something new, I'm excited. I'm definitely going to read this a few times and see if I can get some extra analysis out of it for you guys.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is building to BlizzCon.
Yeah.
That's true too.
Very much so. And we're going to get that big cinematic, your physical comics, Greg, and maybe even a fourth comic to like do a set of 4 that'll be released maybe at BlizzCon.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty cool.
Plus, we just need to play Rowan's version of Lords of the Storm again because it's the best bumper
Yes,
we
we
have. We've only played it once. So, along with this event there will be another quest. The Last Stand against the Raven Lord. Dive behind enemy lines to defeat the Raven Lord's generals and stage a last-ditch defense of King's Crest. Complete 4 quest lines with 4 quests each. To unlock themed rewards, once all 4 generals are defeated, choose between 2 quests and a final act of resistance against the Raven Lord. Unlock a different tombstone mount depending on the final quest you choose. So it seems like there's going to be a lot of quests. I mean, that's 16 quests.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what those quests are like. Actually, I bet they're up on PTR right now to take a look at because I imagine they'll be easier to complete than potentially some of the other ones we've had. But there's cool... You'll get like a spray, an icon for each of the skins from Maev, Whitemane, Alexstrasza, and Zarya.
And there's more to it then. Question though, so is it going to be kind of like we've seen in the past where you take your quest, you finish that out, and then maybe next year have access to the rest of the content?
No. This is
you do all.
You can do all 4. Yeah, you can do all 4.
Oh yeah, defeat all 4 generals.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll probably pick one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Finish that one, and then you can move on to the next one. So I'm assuming this will probably require at least a decent bit of play if you're gonna unlock
Do
all
all
four,
four.
do all four of them, because after you do all four, you'll get to choose between only one of two different tombstone mounts.
Right.
I'm
And
That's
there, maybe again, they'll put both of the tombstones in the content box for next year. I could maybe see that.
maybe, but like I mean, I would think not. It's kind of like the Horde Alliance thing. It's like, you just got to make your decision. Or Lunara, Sonya during the Nexomania. But I'm conflicted by this. First, the tombstone mounts are really cool. As an Alliance player and stuff, like, I try and pick the good side, but I think I'm going to have to go
Well,
with
you
the
already
cursed
failed at that.
tombstone. Because it's got a cool little, like, angry face with horns floating above it. I don't even know what the one is on the redeemed tombstone mount. It's like
It's a happy
like
ghost.
water. Or
It's a happy ghost.
is there?
Yeah, I thought it was a ghost too.
Is there a smiley face on there?
I don't think those faces have anything to do with it. I think it's going to come down to just tint. And honestly, yeah, I just
The red
think
one
you're
looks
going to be able to
good.
do cooler things with the red one.
For sure.
There's
I'm
going to be
definitely
some
leaning toward
synergy with the other.
one. Yeah.
But yeah, I could see like some of those tints of Artanis looking sweet on the one on the left, right? But there's just so much you can do with that red, the glowing red.
Yeah.
So
Like
many
that-
tints that would match it.
That'd go good with all like the Nephilim skin tints and stuff, which are really cool
Yeah,
skin
sure.
tints. But a lot to do there. And again, that is September 25th through October 15th. So get ready for that. Next up, we have one of two patch notes to discuss. First one's going to be the PTR patch notes that went live today, actually. And I don't know if you guys have
No, the PTR ones went live Monday. Balance ones went live today.
Yeah, that is correct.
Got it.
Yes. And I don't know if you guys have been paying attention out there, but there's been some stuff happen. Not only are Kerrigan and Brightwing both getting their long-awaited reworks, but Garden of Terror, huge changes to it.
Very surprising, too, because it wasn't actually removed from the map pool
Yeah.
like
Right.
the other maps that were getting reworked. Because
And
both
it's-
Hanamura and Mines got pulled when they did their reworks.
Yeah.
And it's reworked majorly enough to where you would think that they would need to pull it for it. But maybe this proves that they don't, as long as they know exactly what they're going for.
I'm very intrigued by it because this is something they've obviously been working on for a while, and I know a lot of people have wanted a Garden Terror rework. And did they ever confirm that they were doing it? Like work? Because I don't know. To me, it kind of
I don't recall us ever discussing it.
yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but alas, here it is. And my initial thoughts on it are, I think, in alignment with a lot of people's out there, and they even openly admitted in the video talking about it that they kind of took objectives from a couple different maps and combined them into this one. So the Garden Terror is no longer a vehicle. You no longer fight to gather those the seeds to get to 100 to unlock the objective. It has turned into kind of a cursed hollow where there's going to be 6 seed spawn points that you have to channel to capture the seed. And then is it 3 of those still?
It's 3, yeah.
Yeah, 3. You then get a, say, Alterac Valley or Tomb of the Spider Queen type objective to where you will have a Garden Terror pushing down each lane. And again, without playing it, my initial thoughts were kind of sad about it because it was just taking a couple maps and combining them together, therefore kind of getting rid of uniqueness that Garden Terror brought, even though I wasn't a huge fan of that map. But I will say that map started to kind of grow on me. I enjoyed it more than I used to, but it was still
Pun intended.
What?
Started
grow
to
me.
grow on.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Dad jokes.
But it was still one of my least favorite maps, but it did definitely grow on me. I think I enjoyed it much more than Blackheart's Bay. That's the only map I like worse or disliked even more. But TBK, you have played it.
I have.
What are your thoughts? Not balance wise right now? I mean, I'm interested in that too, but off of just how the map plays.
So if anybody watches my Twitter, as soon as the video came out, I was very tepid about the whole map change. I honestly don't think the video did a super good job of explaining how a lot of it works. It was very unclear how many seeds spawned at the same time, if there was like banking, although I guess you would maybe they were trying to imply it with saying it was like the curse objective. It didn't show any huge team fights around the seeds. So at first I thought, oh, maybe multiple seeds spawn at once.
Oh, it's just one, right?
Yeah, I didn't talk about the tears much, but yeah. So after playing it, I did find out a few things. So it is only one seed at a time that spawns. There are banking of seeds. So it is very much like Cursed Hollow, where if you get your tribute, you get to keep the tribute, and then as soon as the first person hits 3, objective starts. And then you could still, the other team, if they had 2, could technically still pick up 1 the next time and start their event as well. So that was good. The Garden Terrors, as far as I've been able to tell, do not degrade like Spider Queen. But the pots they put out that disable buildings and such do seem to degrade. It's interesting too, when you capture your 3rd seed, it shoots off 3 little vines from where the seed was captured that then spawn in each of the lanes. And it seems, and I'd have to play it a little more to double check, it seems like the lane that's closest to where the seed spawns will get their terror up first, while the other vine has to travel all the way down the map.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's also kind of interesting too, because and this does get a little into the balance side of thing. I was very worried about an objective like the Garden Terror that could spawn a pot that disabled buildings in all 3 lanes.
Yeah.
Because if you compare it to Tomb has something in all 3 lanes, but it doesn't have anything that disables buildings. And Tomb itself is a much, much smaller, more compact map than Garden Terror is. And so in Garden Terror, not only do you have all 3 lanes now, each of the objectives can disable structures, but the map itself is much bigger, which makes rotations much slower to try and get to your different lanes.
But presumably, if you can rotate on the bigger map, say to an open lane where the structures are already disabled, then maybe you're doing extra damage because you're just getting a ton of value out of the pots. There could be something there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It is much rougher for a defending team.
Yeah, I can see
on
that.
Garden because of the big map. It is, you almost have to, and because of the building disabling, you almost have to make sure there's at least somebody in every single lane to take out those pots quickly and make sure that you have the minion support and the tower and fort support to take those out, or you could have a really bad day.
So did the terrors themselves do enough damage? Open. And they're going down there, they're disabling, they're getting their damage in. Did it seem like a strong push on its own, or did you have to support it?
I mean,
I know you've only played a few times, but
it's better to support it, of course, but they can do some damage on their own. They seem to ignore everything except the buildings.
Okay, so they overextend and get shot.
They don't seem to go for. They don't seem to go for minions. They don't seem to go for heroes. It's just straight. I'm focused on structures. Is what I've kind of experienced, and so in the several games I've played, it definitely feels like it could very well get snowbally. Most of the games I played were all but one were extremely one-sided, one way or the other. And that's, again, that could just be PTR. It's going to be very hard to make final judgment calls until this has been on live and we've actually gotten to experience it with a little bit more even matchmaking and such. But at the same time, I almost wouldn't be mad if they also made the Garden Terrors slowly degrade as well, like the Web Weavers on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Yeah, so the whole disabling of structures in all three lanes was one of my big concerns as well, and it makes me feel like almost, the correct defense, I guess the best defense to come out of it would be to almost go clear the other two lanes before you deal with the lane they're pushing in, if they push as one, because that structure is probably sure to go down.
Yeah, that's a point.
So to burn the other two so that you can go defend without having to worry about those lanes getting pushed in because of disabled structures. But I don't know. And again, I'll have to play it, but like one of the cool things about the Garden Terror vehicle was that one was like, while yes, it could disable structures and also hit structures like a truck, like that was the vehicle that could hit heroes like a truck too. Like it was great at PvP. Whereas the Dragon Knight doesn't hit heroes near as hard. It's more about displacement and then hitting structures. At
least the robot on Volskaya kind of gives us a little bit of that. I feel better about this change because we have Volskaya and Dragonshire. Yeah. Just because, we're not missing out on the vehicle combat or that whole feel entirely. Mm-hmm. Even though they're taking it out of this map specifically. So
I mean, and honestly, despite some reservations, I think after actually getting to play it, most of my reservations are numbers based and could be very easily fixed with numbers tweaks. As far as how it plays, I think it actually plays much more streamlined now. And honestly, and I didn't think I would at first, I think it is a much better version of Garden of Terror.
That's good to hear.
Is it a better version of Garden Terror, or is it just more fun and a better or worse version of Tomb of the Spider Queen?
It's too different.
Okay, so it does distinguish itself enough?
Yes, I think it does. It definitely pulls elements from other maps, but I think they've made it different enough that it still feels different, and you still have the Garden Terror aesthetic type thing around it, and you still get at least some of the stuff. You don't get the polymorph or anything anymore, but you still do get the same Garden Terror feel, the pushing, the plant pot, the disabled stuff. There's still a lot of mercenary camps on that map. The layout has changed slightly terrain-wise, just in a few different places, to make room for the new seed spawns, because there's 6 of them. So that's kind of interesting too, because they rotate around between the 6 different seed spawns, and they're all kind of in the middle-ish as well. And such a big map that whole little section is kind of middle. Yes, it is a little closer to one side or another sometimes, but not that big of a difference.
Does it show where the next one is going to be spawning, like Curse does? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it does. And you get the 30-second warning, just like all the other ones. I mean, and they talked about a while ago kind of standardizing that and making it's like random, but
controlled randomness in the sense that you get the warning. Yeah,
where you can make decisions.
Yeah. So you'll get the 30-second warning, and they do spawn fairly quickly.
That's good
as well.
Quicker than, say, the curses in Cursed Hollow, you'd say?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I'd have to time it out, but at least it felt quicker.
Okay. That's good to know.
Fair
well,
enough.
Cool. I mean, it's comforting to hear you say that it's different enough and that it feels different, because, I mean, my main concern after at least watching the video, I haven't gotten a chance to try it out yet either, but was just that it would be too homogenized with some of the elements in some of the other maps. I do still feel that way a little bit about Hanamura. I don't think I said it very well the other week when we were talking about Hanamura, where I was just like, it feels like a map. But, in the sense that it, in some ways, feels a little homogenized with some of the elements that we've seen in some other maps, too. But, yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see if this one feels that way for me, but that was a good endorsement. And honestly, like, if the seeds spawn faster than those curses do in Cursed Hollow, that's actually kind of exciting for me, too, because then you're like, you just finished one group fight, and then, oh, man, we got to set up another one, So
Yeah.
that could be really cool.
Excellent. Well, we will look forward to trying that out some more. There's also a little tiny change to rank play in this. That's also, not with the.
I was gonna say,
COE
don't miss that.
Oh, yeah.
I have many thoughts on this.
Yeah. So just a small thing here. Team League now supports all party sizes, including solo players. I'm a little confused by this. All solo players will need to choose which league to play for the first time after the patch. Does that that still gives you the choice? Like, you don't have to choose. Okay, as a solo player, I'm going to be doing Team League this season, or I'm going to be doing Hero League. Like, you can still swap back and forth.
I highly doubt.
It's
that
just
they would
it's
do something like
it's
that.
worded super weird.
It's
worded
probably
weird.
a UI thing. My guess is because when you load up the ranked screen, you've got Hero League on one side and Team League on the other. It's probably, and this is just a guess, but it's probably that you choose first the first time you log in, and then how it still kind of remembers what you queued as previously. It has like who you've won with the most and that kind of thing. Maybe the next time, if you play enough Team League, you log back in, it just has Team League highlighted. But in my mind, you'd still have the freedom to switch over to Hero League from there. So
Okay.
that's just a guess. But
So I'm interested in both of your thoughts on this. Mine, I am willing to go along with this to see what it does, see if it helps. For me, as somebody who played more Hero League, I think it's going to hurt Hero League. And I'm not sure how much it'll actually help Team League. Hopefully, it gets more people to want to use comms, and again, without forcing anyone into it. But I hope more people would be open to it, since you are going into a Team League environment. But I'm still in the camp that I would prefer Hero League to be solos and duos. And I know we've talked about a bunch of different stuff before, like one queue period, but if you queue as solo, then you have your own separate leaderboard for that. I think that could work as well, but I'm intrigued to see how it plays out. Multi, what are your thoughts on it?
So I'm a little weirded out, in particular because solo players are in Team League. In fact, we have in chat half notes in here saying solo Team League ? So yeah, that's kind of interesting there. Generally speaking, I think that the philosophy behind this is okay, but I'm actually worried that the opposite of what you said is going to come true, and it's that in team leagues and in ranked in general, you do have a higher chance of people getting in comms and that sort of thing. So I think that's true. We'd have some solo players hopping in the comms with 3 or 4 stack maybe, and thus benefiting from it. But you also open yourself up to the possibility of, okay, if there's a stack of 3 and you're partied with 2 people who are solo, there's still a really good chance that those 2 people that are solo in particular aren't really on the comms train. And so now you've only really got communication between 3 people instead of what could have been more potentially. So I don't know. I generally am a fan of us having more freedom as players to play the game as we want to. Can't ever discount that. But I am a little weirded out by this one, in part because I'm kind of suspicious that it's an attempt to just pull more people into Team League in general. And that gets me kind of worried about, because again, Blizzard has, of course, all the back end data of how many people are queuing, how many teams are there truly that run Team League consistently, and they may have made this decision based in part upon looking at those numbers and saying, "Oh, this mode is just not what we wanted it to be." So I don't know. I'm very tepid on it, but yeah. TBK, I know you're just dying to rant on this one.
Yes, I don't think they went far enough. I think they just need to suck it up and say, it's one rank button. Just one rank button. As soon as I saw this, I was like, yes, great first step. Let's just go all the way, Blizzard.
Okay.
Go steady.
There's advantages and disadvantages to that, though. Some would argue.
I think you could pretty much mitigate most of the disadvantages to a single queue. And there's other games that have this, and it works perfectly well. So you pretty much you have your two leaderboards. You have a team league and you have a solo leaderboard for this. When you queue solo, the game will attempt as much as possible to put you with 9 other solo players, so that most of the time as you're queuing solo, you will play just like normal Hero League. When you are queuing with multiple people, you'll be able to queue as 2, 3, 4, or 5. This allows the greatest variety of friend combinations and teams that there can be. And so teams could then be made up of 2-2-1, 3-2, 4-1, 5. And so your possibility of team league sizes goes up dramatically. And then on the most likely few times that you queue as 4, some of the solo people will get pulled in and you get the 5-man. Will there be a lot of 4 queues? Probably not. I think a lot of things have shown that solo, duo, trio, and 5-man are the most common group sizes for a lot of these team league type games. But you're talking about one queue out of, or one combination out of 4 or 5 different combinations that would actually pull in another solo player into the team league side, and then that would count towards your team league side of the leaderboard, not the solo side of the leaderboard. So I think honestly it would lead to a much healthier rank system and a much healthier team league type system, because you'd put all your ranked players into the same pool,
and then we all
most
have the
likely
same
speed up queues just all around.
That's true, and then we would all be in the same pool in the sense that, like, you know, if I'm truly a platinum player and I'm proud of that, I can just talk about the one queue. I'm not saying, oh, I'm platinum Hero League, but I really push Team League, so I'm diamond there.
There's going to be some people who are probably get a little upset about that, but that's why you keep the solo and the Team League leaderboards going, and so you can point to, oh yeah, most of my games are played solo, and I'm such and such on the leaderboard and whatnot. And I think this would give the matchmaker way more opportunity to put teams and player ranks together, because if you queue as 5, the matchmaker, of course, would prefer that you had another 5 people you go up against. But if for some reason they can't find another 5 people in your skill level that are queuing at the same time, it can go, okay, 4-1. Or 3-2,
or a huge disparity in MMR. Potentially, that may be one of the fixes they think to put in there.
Potentially, but yeah, it's one of those things, because when you do stuff like that, you can go, okay, it's going to be 4-1 versus this 5 stack, or 3-2 versus this 5 stack, because there's not another 5 stack that matches up. But the 4-1 or the 3-2 are going to be slightly higher MMR to compensate for the fact that they're not all 5 together. And I think that would be a huge thing for the matchmaker to be able to do, because there's so many more combinations that it would allow from just a single queue system, and there will most likely be a lot more people participating in it.
So
I like it. Let me throw a couple things from chat though. Max Zillion's in there making some really good points. He brought up the concern of what if it's 5 solos versus a 5 stack. We kind of addressed that just now, but one point he makes too. So I know you're talking about having both queues being in the same, but another potential option could be his suggestion of a solo player being able to queue for both and then only get pulled in to Team League if necessary, and then you could still have the option to opt out and keep the 2 separate, but still have that feel of, I'm a solo player, I don't really care which one I do.
Sure, but the problem with an opt-out system is you're taking people away from the pool.
That's true.
And that's I think that would be the strength of a single queue, is just the massive amount of people in the same pool they could pull from. And like I said, I would think that you would only, if you are solo, you would only get pulled in to a 4-1 if you absolutely needed to. But my guess is there would be enough people in there that a 5 stack versus 5 ones would basically have a 0.01% chance of ever happening.
And it's mostly like 3 2s and mixtures. And,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I could like this. I don't want to like this, and I'll tell you why, because I still have the dream and hope that Team League will turn into a successful version of what it first was, where you can have your individual teams, and I've gone on and on about that, and then having like that being where open division stuff comes from and being invited to play in the Crucible, stuff like that. But the only way I would like this, and I think it would have to, like, it would be a necessity, because otherwise it would make a lot of people mad if it was just queuing up solo and potentially getting towards your solo ranking, or potentially in Team League, because a lot of people want to grind one or the other. They just need to have an option, if you are queuing solo, to make it where I'm queuing solo, I only want to go against solos.
Why
Like,
would you have
checkbox.
two things then? You might as well just not have.
Because
two
I think there would
queues
be
then.
some people that, I mean, it would open it up. It wouldn't. I think a lot
You
of
get
people.
what I'm saying?
No, I do.
Yeah,
but
you
I
could
think
do it all in the one.
I
queue,
think it
like
would.
Jawesome.
I think it would give, like, a lot of people would go for the option of, okay, like, today, or like I don't care what I'm playing. I want to, like, sure, Team League, Hero League, whatever. Let's do it. But I think like the Hero League grind, there too many people enjoy that to take that away. Because if you really want to work on like your ranking, now you're having to play twice as many games effectively to work on the ranking you are wanting to work on, or possibly even more, because now you're probably playing more Team League games and working on your Team League ranking than you are your solo ranking. Because in a system like this, 90% of the time you'd be playing in Team League instead of.
I don't think so at all.
I
You're
absolutely.
talking about
No.
keeping the split, but allowing the queue for both, as Max Zillion suggested, or
No, like
'Cause we're talking about
if you were
some
locked
different
into one system,
series at once.
if you were locked into one system, if you were queuing solo, 90% of your games would be you filling into a Team League game. So therefore, it's
I
working
don't-
your Team League ranking.
I don't think so.
I'm not sure either.
You're
A lot of
only
people
filling
solo
into
queue.
a 4-stack.
No, you could
Like,
do a
that's-
3-1-1 too.
Why would
Yeah.
why would the system do that though? Like the system,
It would.
and I mean it would potentially.
Oh no, it would all the
that
time.
at
I'm
some
with
point.
Gizmo on this one. There'd be a lot of 3-1-1s and also 2-1-1-1. It's another possibility.
Just if it's effectively going to cut on the queue times, that's what it would be doing. Otherwise, if you're doing this system specifically
I hate
to
having
allow,
this discussion without data.
yeah,
That's
hard.
what really ticks me off. Is just like it's like, oh, I want to argue with that, but I
It's hard.
can't argue with that because we don't have any numbers
Yeah.
about how many 2s pairs queue in Team League, how many 1s queue in Hero League, how many 3s queue in Team League, how many 5s queue in Team League. We just don't know.
Yeah.
And so, like, we can argue about it, and we can have like ideas of how many of a certain type we think queue, but at the end of the day, we just don't know.
Yeah. My only like, you yourself said that not many people queue as 4s. So if you're combining both of these really just to fix that, to where if there's a 4-stack you can throw one in there, I don't. And again, hard without numbers, but I don't think that's worth getting rid, like combining it into one just to solve that problem. But this is
I'm
again,
not
this
saying
is
I
a
don't
good
think it
first
just
step.
solves that problem, but I think it, like you said, there will be more solo people playing in Team League.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Yeah,
going
that's
to
true.
be 90%.
Uh,
I think it will be.
So-
I think it will be a. It would be a somewhat decent increase, comparably to fill in the Team League games. I think more what I'm leaning towards is upping the population of a rank queue, because I think it's been proven, unless we have some sort of insane incentive or insane overhaul of Team League, there is not a good enough population of Team League to sustain it. And I believe Dota 2 has this type of ranking system in it. And it's proven that it can work. And so I almost feel like, at the very least, I'd love to give at least a season a try of combined queue to see what it felt like.
Well,
So here's another. Go ahead.
No, you can get your last point because I'm trying to get back to what we do know instead of stuff we don't know. So
No, actually, I was going to do that too. So I just want to make one point about like not theory crafting, but the situation as it is. So allowing solo players into the team league queue is actually. So Gizmo, you talked about the subject that we've brought up several times of kind of going back to the older system where you lock in teams, you have a team name, you have some of these other systems we've come up with where you can like look for groups using an internal group finder and all these types of things. I feel like allowing people to solo queue in a team league is actually kind of a step away from that kind of approach. They're now not focusing on, okay, let's really build out what the full 5-stack team experience could be, and instead thinking about the little guy, the solo. So I don't know about that.
So the developer comments, and you mentioned this earlier, like it seems like they're trying to open up the team league pool to get more players in there. That is exactly what they're doing. And one thing that I think could work from this, and the point they're making is it's opening opportunities for solo players to find groups of players to play with for a ranked queue. So what this can do is you queue as solo for team league. You play some games, you're going to have some games where you don't communicate at all. But there's a good chance, you could find and have a good game with some people that you then group up with them and continue queuing in Team League for them. So this could be a way for solo players who really have only been able to play Team League, whether it's they're not involved in a community, they don't have friends that play Team League, things like that, for them to get into that environment, find people who are already playing together. And instead of just typing in chat like, hey, does anyone have room on this rank? It's, you actually played a game together. Did you guys synergize well and get along? If so, all right, let's queue up some more and play together. So I do think that's a good thing to come out of this. And I do think that's a good first step. And maybe that way more people get involved, more communities, more groups. And then someday we can bring the old Team League back. No, I don't know. But I think there's some positives out of this. So
I think one main like big thing that we didn't bring up yet is this is going to make it a lot easier for a lot more people to get rewards from the ranked season.
That's true as well.
That is true. Yeah.
Because the team league rewards are easier to get. It is because all you have to do is play 10 team league games to get the mount.
And you don't have to do any YOLO queues for it.
Whether they change that up or not, I don't know. They haven't made any indication that they will yet. But yeah, it will be much easier because I will literally just have to solo queue up into Team League 10 times.
That's also arguably not a good thing because I'll admit there's been a couple seasons where I literally only played Team League to get my 10 games in to get the reward. And I wasn't as invested in it as, say, I was in Hero League. But, again, I think at this point, getting more people into Team League, expanding that pool is more important. So we will...
I'm very interested to hear the feedback from this.
Yeah, I am as well. Okay, now let's move on to the two heroes here. We have Kerrigan and Brightwing. I will cover the changes for Kerrigan, try and go fairly quickly here. So her kit, her Ravage, is getting increase in charge, so it's going from 1 charge to 2 charge, reducing range from 8 to 6, mana cost reduced from 40 to 20, damage reduced from 110 to 130, and it's getting the added functionality in where it restores 20 mana when used on an enemy that dies within 1.5 seconds. So building that talent into her kit, giving her 2 charges shorter range. That's cool. Impaling Blades, reducing the damage from 261 to 180. Primal Grasp, pull damage reduced from 114 to 25. Added functionality, though, 2.5 seconds after using. Kerrigan damages all enemies for 180. So if you're still landing that combo, you're still getting that damage. More damage, actually, which is cool. Her Ultralisk is getting an interesting change. So Splash Radius increased from 1.5 to 2. The initial cast of Ultralisk is now a directional skill shot that causes the Ultralisk to charge in the targeted direction until impacting an enemy hero. It deals 250 damage and stuns for half a second to the first hero it hits. That's pretty cool. That might be
the CC is good.
That might be what Ultralisk needed, and then it functions like it did before, where you can target it afterwards, and you don't have to hit somebody with it. If you cast it and miss, Ultralisk is still out there. You can still control it with your R. And then her trait, the shield amount, has been increased from 10 to 15% of damage dealt. She's getting a lot of talent stuff here. If I don't know what. This is going to be a long
Just
episode.
Player.
Yeah,
player.
Just player.
Yeah, right.
We cannot go over the talent changes for Kerrigan and Brightwing.
There's too much. But I will say overall, I am super excited about her changes here. The potential for her to actually lane and not run out of mana instantly seems really cool. I'm excited. Did you play her at all, TBK?
Of course.
Okay, so what's your quick initial reactions?
She's super strong on the PTR right now.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. Maybe a little too strong. Super fun though. I love that they built in the mana refund.
That's huge.
Into the Ravage.
Yeah, that's big.
You do notice the shorter Q range some, but I think the 2 charges makes up for it, honestly.
And some of the talents that there is, where you can leap around all over the place. Nuts.
There's a lot more nuance to her now, I think, especially with Primal Grasp, because Primal Grasp now, like you said, 2.5 seconds after you use it, you explode. And a little AoE damage around yourself. So that's something you have to keep in mind, too, as you're playing her once you do the Primal Grasp and getting into position to maximize that effect.
Well,
which is kind of interesting as well.
It's rewarding actually landing that combo, as to where before you could still do a decent amount of damage if you miss the stun but still get the pull. Now it's rewarding skilled players for actually landing that entire combo, which is really cool.
Yeah, because you'll be stunned long enough that the damage would hit you, but at the same time, you've got 2 charges of Ravage now. So it's much easier to get to the person within 2.5 seconds before your AoE goes off, or get in the middle of the minion wave to get them low, to then bunny hop around, insta-killing everything and recharging your mana. So yeah, that's interesting. I did see a few Ultralisks, and I mean...
It's still not the better heroic, is it?
No, it's really not. The initial stun is kind of nice. It's only a 0.5 second stun to the first hero hit.
And a skill shot, so you're not really always
shot.
hitting what you want. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a cool step in the right direction, I think. It is, and it does deal a little bit of damage, but I just still don't think it quite can compete. It's nice having an extra body, honestly, especially if there's a squishy on the enemy team, because during a team fight scenario, you can shoot that out, stun somebody, and then target it on maybe they're squishy in the back, their healer, harass them a little bit, because it is, just from a like psychological perspective, scary to have this big thing coming at you and start like beating on your character, and you're just like, gotta get away from it or whatever, and try and kill it. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if it starts seeing more use. I honestly couldn't tell from just a few games.
I feel like it should have the stun, since it's only a 0.5, have a small AoE area of stun instead of just hitting that initial person.
Like Blaze?
Yes, like Blaze.
Yeah, I can maybe see that.
Who knows? Multi, are you excited about her at all? I don't think have you ever been a Kerrigan player?
Never
really?
been excited about Kerrigan. Nope. Not a big StarCraft fan, not a big Kerrigan fan, but no, I mean,
she's like the Sylvanas of StarCraft, though. I feel like she'd be right up your alley.
That's true.
Maybe
She's like she's like
well,
the
remember,
Azshara
none of us have
of
done StarCraft.
Yeah,
actually,
but she's Sylvanas of StarCraft.
Yeah. Well, Ajara is going to be the same kind of model, but in Heroes. In fact, they joked about that on the Instance show. I don't know if you heard that one, where they were calling it the Ajara from the N'Zoth short, the fish Kerrigan. So yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, that's all Garrett Winslow on that one. I gotta give him credit. I want to talk about Brightwing though. Can I do that?
Go for it.
Okay, so again, I'll just give you the brief rundown on the basic abilities, but it's super interesting. So, general damage nerf to both the outer and inner rings of the Arcane Flare, the Q. Missile speed increased by 30%, though, which is good. And then added functionality, if an enemy hero is hit by the center of the flare, instantly pulse a free Soothing Mist. So, extra pulse on that one. And that is super interesting. I think it's keeping in line with kind of I think we're seeing a trend among supports now where, like, if you get a little bit of this damage in and land, Moonfires or some of your abilities as White Mane, you get more healing out of it. So that's just a cool direction. Everything else, so there's a little bit of changes to a couple of our other abilities in terms of like durations and range, blah, blah, blah. Don't care. I do want to talk about the phase shift, though. There's an added functionality now. Heals the target for 20% of their maximum health as you shift to them. So just getting the shift off as a heal now is kind of cool. That's baseline. That's not a talent. And then there's Soothing Mist. So your D on Brightwing, the heal on it's generally down, which is fine because you get some extra heals out of phase shifting and you can get those free pulses off of Arcane Flare. And it's totally worth it for the trade-off where it's now an activatable as well, where you pulse a Calming Wave, clearing all stun, root, slow, and silence effects from nearby allies at 120-second cooldown. So AoE cleanse that you have at level 1 and can activate with 2 people in range. It just seems cool. Seems really cool. And then past that, there's some changes to Emerald Wind. Don't care. Who cares? Whatever. I'm not going to pick it. So, and then there's a bunch of talent stuff. Way too much to get into yet again, like we said, but some really interesting new ones in terms of they're now, we mentioned the Calming Mist where you get to cleanse. There's a few things that build off of that, as well as just a bunch of changes to like a Pixie Dust build and that sort of thing. So I am going to hop in the PTR to try her out if the queues aren't ridiculous at this point, of course, being a couple days into it. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I've been a Brightwing fan since forever. She's probably in the top 5 heroes that I enjoy playing in the entire game. So I'm pumped. It seems like a cool direction.
So,
but TBK. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I thought I remember seeing something in the video to where like minions dying or something reduces the cooldown of phase shift. Is that a talent? Am I speaking out of my butt? Okay, it's a talent. And then the other talent I thought was really cool, I just want to point out real quick, is I don't know what it's called, but it's the one that whenever you phase shift to somebody, it makes them stealth, which is pretty cool.
That is kind of cool. Another notable talent change. Another notable talent change is Ice Block removed yet again. So, all
right.
And again, it kind of makes sense. So whatever.
TBK, but it is back at 16.
And yes, in a different form. Both her and Kerrigan got like a little
much
invulnerable type things.
Kerrigan got a cocoon, which is kind of interesting because you basically put yourself in a cocoon and start healing rapidly, but the cocoon can actually be damaged down and you can get broken out of it. Brightwing's thing at 16 is really interesting, and it's actually kind of crazy because you activate it and you phase out and become invulnerable for 0.5 seconds. Not a super long time, so you have to be pretty on it, but it's only a 20-second cooldown, which is crazy. Cool.
So if you're really good at blocking certain skill shots and such, then yeah. Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love it.
So how does it feel? You played her.
It feels so good.
Okay,
it feels so good. I love it so much. They added some of the skill component in with the Arcane Flare, which gives you the extra heals if you're hitting people in the center, which is super cool. They did keep the bribe talent, only just in a new form at level 1, where every minion killed near you grants a bribe stack, but hitting an enemy with the center portion of the Arcane Flare grants you 5, which is super, super cool. Yeah. And all her level 1s are actually really interesting. So she just feels better.
Good.
I feel like having the cleanse on the Soothing Mist is really awesome. It is a super long cooldown, so it's not something that you can just use for the heck of it. Like this is a big deal. It is 120 seconds. This is like high-end heroic type cooldown.
Right.
So you have to be very sure when you actually use that to clear stuff up, but it can be extremely strong at the same time. I think they nailed it with her.
So-
She feels a lot better.
It seems like it's going to be more active. You know, I mean,
Very
part of the
much so.
problem with the arcane flare was in part sometimes. I mean, you didn't really have a lot of incentive to be trying to land them. I mean, you do it to kind of harass in lane, I guess, but I mean, sometimes you're just kind of burning through mana doing it. But to get free healing out of it and free stacks of bribe and that sort of thing,
Yeah,
sounds good.
Multi kind of alluded to this earlier about like the theme of doing damage to heal and stuff. And Wonderbread and chat says healer mini games are real. And I'm not a support player, so I don't know how support players feel about it in general. TBK used to be pretty happy about it. I think it's a cool idea as far as taking these damage abilities and really taking down the damage on them. It's not so much about doing damage now. Sure, that's a bonus, but really it's rewarding. I guess I don't really like the term mini game for healer, but for better or worse, I'm gonna use it like a mini game of rewarding you in a skillful way for being skillful to provide more heals, and like they do it with Malfurion, Whitemane, Kharazim. They just have to be careful, and again, nerfing Brightwing's damage on this is good to not let healers do so much damage that then we get into that whole double support meta thing again.
Right.
So it's a cool way to turn healers into actual like playable heroes instead of heal bots. I guess I'm
I was gonna say actually, it makes you feel a lot less like a heal bot, even if, like in theory, if you're doing your abilities so that you get more healing off, you technically are doing it for the heals and thus are kind of a heal bot. But you definitely don't feel like one because you're using all your abilities and getting in there, harassing and doing a bunch of good stuff. So
I also want to point out that she has some of the coolest level 20 talents. They replaced everything. So she's got a 20% permanent move speed increase. She's got a 60-second activatable that casts pixie dust on everybody that's near you. And this is absolutely insane. She's got a new talent called Intensive Winds that lowers the cooldown of Emerald Wind to 3 seconds. It now costs 200 mana.
Yeah.
So super, super interesting potential kind of out of that. And then my favorite, which I used twice actually while I was playing PTR, Invisible Friends, which gives your blink heal. When you blink to someone and heal them, they also stealth. And they're unrevealable for 0.5 seconds. And while they're stealth, they regenerate 20 health per second.
It's pretty
Wait,
cool.
so they're only
Super
stealth?
cool ability.
They're unrevealable, but how long do they stealth?
Until they're taken out, or
Until
take themselves
they
out.
attack. Yeah. Or damage.
Wow. Okay, that's insane.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's really cool.
Super, super cool. And remember that stealth isn't what it used to be. You still much easier to see, blah blah blah. But it's kind of a really cool ability because I saved several people with it by causing them to stop being targeted for that period of time. So
well, and you could set up your team for that regen's still okay. Like if you're trying to plan something and maybe gank someone in a bush or something, you could get a few blink heals off ahead of time, have a few more people stealthed, and do some crazy fun stuff potentially.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So excited for both of those, and maybe who knows, maybe that'll get me to play a little Brightwing.
You realize too, though, that we have so many like rework Hero of the Weeks to do. We haven't even done Tyrande yet, and now these two, I feel like we almost have to do both as well. So we're not going to be short on content here.
Pumping these things out. It's
good.
It's crazy.
It's really
Overall, though, like it's going to be I think it's going to be a very solid PTR patch between the map and the reworks. And as you guys heard, I don't envy the Blizzard team who's working on the ranked stuff, because we all had very different opinions, very passionate opinions, and we are a sample size of 3, and there are so many more people that have opinions and on how these things should be and what is the best for the team league and the rank situation. So I just from there, like I kind of feel bad for those guys, because that is a daunting task of trying to please the most people with the best system possible.
I don't know if we've said this before, guys, but making video games is hard, especially living games.
Yeah, especially multiplayer type continuous content games.
I thought that they just flip switches and fix things instantly. Like, what? How? Sorry, I'm just quoting all of Reddit.
Yeah. Like, why can't the artist just make Genji balance? I don't understand.
Yeah, just press like 2 buttons and he won't dash as far or do as much damage.
Balancing is an art form, isn't it? Just do it. Gosh.
Right.
But no, there's actually some more interesting stuff when it comes to ranked that I'm intrigued to get into in the AMA. But before we do that, guys, there's another patch that we need to discuss, and that's the balance patch that went live today.
Really fast.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
really fast.
So there's a couple to hit on, but we should honestly just hit on those, because there's a lot that just got little tweaks, like Genji, Swift Strike, nerfed.
Like,
hey,
17.
thank you for that.
17 heroes bounced in this patch.
But so yeah, we're not going to go in depth on this. We'll have it in the patch notes for you guys to check out. But this being Mephisto's kind of balance patch, since he came out last week. Has he been out 2 weeks now?
Yeah, this is week 3.
This is week. Oh yeah, wow, week 3. Holy crap! My timeline is so messed up still.
You were gone for a couple of those, so it's fine.
Yeah, Mephisto, Lightning Nova, damage reduced, damage bonus. Oh, the whole thing brought down a little bit. Maximum damage bonus from 40 to 30%. Consume souls, slow amount reduced from 40 to 25. That's pretty darn big. Endurance of hate, missile speed increase, ability range increase, root duration increase, damage increase. So trying to balance out those.
It's like people
ultimates.
weren't picking it for some reason.
Yeah, that's weird. I wonder if people
still
will.
probably aren't. Yeah, no, because it's still a skill shot that if you whiff, and that's it.
And it's still got the second delay on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and there was no change to the cooldown in this either. So.
Unyielding power at 1 they buffed, as well as anger, which is to your passive or basic ability. Cooldown reduction increased from 0.75 to 1. Static barrier at 4 nerfed. Surprise, from 50 to 40%. 16 lightning reaction, damage reduced from 144 to 138. And static field, damage reduced from 12 to 10% of enemies' maximum health. Surprise, surprise. And then 20 Shade Lord, cooldown reduced from 60 to 40 seconds. So bring him back as Lightning Nova damage. That was wrecking
it's
people.
like the Lightning build got nerfed.
That's weird.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah. And consider, too, that level 4 static barrier nerf is a double nerf, in the sense that the shield amount is down and the damage that you initially did to create the shield is down. So, nerfing that and then trying to bring up some of the other talents there. Tyrande, TBK, I know you've been playing her, and she's been hit with a bat. She's a little strong.
She's definitely been hit a little bit.
A little love tap.
Yeah, a little less healing on her Q, a little extra mana, make it a little less spammable. Shadowstock heal got reduced just a little bit. They basically hit her most popular build, which was the True Shot Aura, grabbing that, and then grabbing a few other auto attack talents later on with some healing mixed into the middle. They nerfed True Shot Aura down to 20 to 15 for both you and the activated version of it. Just a few other small things. Darnastian archery, the duration that you can keep hitting to people is reduced from 8 to 6 seconds, that type of thing. It's overall, it's definitely nerfs, but it is not super heavy-handed nerfs. She did have a pretty high win rate. let's just be honest.
Sure.
But I still love the direction they took her, and I love that they went full on support with her. I still think she'll be okay. She showed up a lot in HGC this last weekend, with varying success. With varying success, but yeah, it's fun to see her again. She's a really fun hero and it's got a really cool kit.
Yeah, and these nerfs don't seem like they peel back the direction they've gone with her or anything like that. Because we've kind of seen that in the past with her, where when they've tried to make her a little bit more healy, but then they nerf back a little of those pieces, that she ends up kind of getting back into that weird space where she's not really either. But no, this is just some number tweaks, and the new feel's still there, so it's good. Mm-hmm. It's fine. Mm-hmm.
The other hero I wanted to mention here real quick is Blaze. So overall, they've increased his max health. And then increased mana cost in both his Flame Strike and Oil Spell, but reduced cooldown on Jet Propulsion. Bunker Drop, cooldown increased from 60 to 80, and mana cost increased from 40 to 80 as well. That's huge. As well as
and a damage nerf, not a huge one, but one. Yeah.
And oh boy, do you feel those mana increases?
Yes. So yeah. I'll talk to that here in a second. They buffed Combustion. And did some stuff to his talents, like Endurance Stim Pack, Shield Amount increased, Neural Stim Pack, Mana Restoration reduced. I think that because I always went Neural Stim Pack, I think I'll probably end up going Endurance now, because one, only getting 30 mana back, and two, hey, I'm lowering the cooldown on my abilities that cost a lot of mana. Doesn't sound like something I want to do. Developer comments, so Blaze is performing really well in professional play, but he is currently the lowest winning warrior in the game. So to balance it out, they're trying to increase cooldown and lowering effectiveness of Bunker Drop, and his laning phase is also not as interactive as we'd like it to be, so increasing mana cost of his abilities to reduce its perpetual wave clear and sustain in the early phases of the game. In exchange for these nerfs, we're giving him some base survivability buffs, reducing cooldown of Jet Propulsion, and improving some of his talents. I'm real worried about their mana costs and how that is supposed to help his win rate in the game. They
are pushing him towards a solo tank status. They are trying to pull him away from off tank, off lane.
Just wave clearer. I can see that.
They're trying to reduce that, and this has been the big thing, and this was talked about a little bit in the AMA. Right now, solo lane is dominated by pretty much three heroes: Dahaka, Blaze, and Yrel. And this is because they're all very tanky. They all have very good wave clear, and they all have very good sustain. And as we see later, one other thing to point out in these notes, like you said, there's a ton of them, but Yrel got all of her mana costs increased as well by significant amounts.
Yeah.
They all went up 15 mana, every single one of her basic abilities. And so what this change is trying to do is less Yrel, it's more just a straight nerf to her, like spamming all of her abilities to clear waves constantly. But for Blaze, it's much more of a shift of, we want him to be more of a main tank than we do the off tank solo lane, super sustainy, super bully and whatnot. And so that kind of comes in with the whole health increase, but a little less sustain because you're not going to have as much mana, a little less wave clear because you're not going to have as much mana. You're going to have to be more careful with how you use your abilities instead of just spam like you can do now.
I don't know if this, it might be the first step towards trying to make him a full-on main tank instead of the off lane, but I don't know if that's the case, because in the AMA, I mean, they fully acknowledge, like, yeah, blazing it up off tank, like, that's cool. And it, doesn't say anything about that in developer comments. I think it's just, I don't know. It's weird, but I've played him as a main tank, and I think he's great. I mean, he's one of my better warriors that I take into Hero League. But it's some interesting stuff for sure. In mana, interesting topic, which we will get to hear in a second. Do you guys? Was there anyone else like you guys wanted to hit up real quick?
Not particularly.
No, other than the Urel stuff.
Full buff to Tyrael though, health increase and cooldown reduction and mana cost reduction to his W. So boom.
This is the balanced patch of the tanks. And
Yeah,
I
it
think
seems to be.
they're really trying to shake up the tanking meta a lot right now. It seems like because as a lot of pros have kind of complained, it's gotten kind of stale, and so I think this is their attempt at kind of shaking that tank meta up.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on into the AMA recap here real quick. And again, there's a ton to go over, so we're just going to kind of go over some of the stuff.
Yeah, we're only an hour and a half into the show and we haven't even started the AMA, but yeah, it's
While
cool.
while we're talking on Blaze Gizmo,
Yeah.
Why would you delay this even further?
this jumps into the AMA, and this kind of because I know we had talked about it, this kind of backs up what I'm saying. One person had actually asked if it was a concern that the last tank releases, both Blaze and Urel, which were advertised as tanks in the spotlight, are only accepted as bruisers by the community. And so Liz Jackson responded and said he's the main balance designer in Blaze and was surprised he ended up in the solo lane as an off tank because they gave him a lot of the tools to make him a main tank. And I still believe that while he's not quite there, especially for pro play, he's closer than most to being viable in that role. Then he says he's worked on many warriors over the last few years, and can confidently say it's hard to quantify what exactly makes a main tank, off tank, and bruiser, especially before their release. But he does say then, currently I think we would like to see Blaze be better in the role of a main tank, whereas Urel would require a larger rework of her abilities to work in that role, which is something we're more resistant to do as her gameplay is fairly unique, and we wouldn't want to worry about ruining what's special.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so that I had jumped into the main comment, and that does seem to back up some of the changes that they are trying to shift him more towards main tank and less bruiser off tank.
Okay. Well, also, along the lines of mana and stuff here, I believe there was another question asked about mana. I can't find it, but this one regards mana as well. That was asked, new heroes normally don't have mana issues if they have mana at all. Genji, Hanzo, Tracer, Maiev, Deckard, Urel, Whitemane, Phoenix, Junkrat. Older heroes like Rhaegar or Uther are out of mana after the first mid lane brawl. Is this discrepancy intentional, or do you want to close this mana cost gap? Blizz Jackson responded, thank you for the question, Callison. This is actually a very hot topic right now among us. We have an hour-long meeting this week to align ourselves with what mana means to our game and what direction we want to move towards. While it is a very powerful tool from a balanced design perspective, it's not really fun to run out of mana. Since our game is fast-paced and brawly, I think we need to be a little on the forgiving side when it comes to mana tension. There was another, I'm 90% sure this one was on mana as well, but they had also mentioned the meeting, but they weren't ready to give any details out about that yet. Mana is something I have thought's been kind of weird in this game for a while now. Yeah. Not only because we have so many heroes that don't have mana, but then again, we do have these heroes like Kerrigan, pre-rework, would run out of mana instantly. And then there's other heroes where mana it doesn't matter. Like, it's there, but it never affects you.
You're right. It's super weird.
It's not consistent at all.
It did feel like the older kits ran out of mana quicker. I mean, the Tyrael meme of him just burning through his mana bar lasted quite some time. They've addressed that a little bit since then, but I mean, heroes like Kerrigan, Arthas, Tyrael, some of these just really, really old characters that haven't had a ton of changes to their kits. It can run into some mana issues for sure.
So, well, and I've been trying to think about like what options are they coming up with in their meetings? Like, what's potential here? Because I've thought about it, and I think honestly, with the way this game is designed, with the speed at which it's designed, how long the games are supposed to last, I personally feel like mana should, at some point in this game, it may be too late. Like, you may have to start designing a game around this, just not have mana. Like the cooldowns are the gates for abilities, but then, and it may again be too late for this game that's 3 years old, because then you need to come up with something. Well, what's the limits for somebody staying in lane, having to make them go back, push them out of lane? I mean, is that getting rid of or reducing health regeneration to make, fountains still a necessity? Like, what do you do there? But they need, it just needs, it's so inconsistent. And again, designing games is hard. I don't have the answer for it. But it's just super weird to me.
I would hate that fix only because I do like the freedom of being able to churn through my abilities a little faster at the cost of potentially running out of mana in a moment when I need it. You think through, like, we talked in the Mephisto build about some of the talents where you can get more out of your trait by even doing basic attacks and that sort of thing. But the more you're reducing your overall cooldowns, the more you're churning through them and the more mana you're churning through. But I like that. I like that I have the ability to make that decision as I'm playing moment to moment. I think to fix it, they really do just kind of have to look at every single character and be like, all right, well, and maybe even run sims where they're going in lane and saying, all right, if I'm a Diablo that's just literally spamming Fire Stomp every time I get it up, all my abilities, like I'm just using them to harass, like how fast am I running out of mana versus a Blaze that does the same thing versus a ETC that does the same? And that's just it. I think the fix for me is a deep dive into every single individual hero. And I'm sure they're doing this. I'm sure that's why we're getting some of these changes, but it's just far off from being at the point where a lot of them feel the same in that regard.
Yeah, and I agree. I do like that whole aspect of, decision making of whether to spam your abilities in a situation of need, knowing that is going to make you useless until you go back and get your mana back.
The best example in the game of that now is Whitemane, Divine Plea. Beautifully done how they did that ability.
I don't know, just playing devil's advocate here, this could be an awful idea. What if you made abilities to where they had 2 timers, and say you could, cast an ability with 4 seconds left on the cooldown, but if you did that, it extended the actual cooldown of it. That's an awful idea. I'm just trying to think of ways to do without mana. TBK.
You could have no. Here you go. If you could have, all right, I'm just throwing this out there. All abilities are still castable when you're out of mana. They just have crazy long cooldowns.
Yeah, I don't know. What are your opinions on mana, TBK? Do you think they just need to go through?
You should make an ability that has 4 levels of cast.
You can just choose. I mean, we have a bunch more buttons on our keyboard that we don't use. Let's just make things up for them.
Exactly.
At some point, it's just going to become World of Warcraft. That's okay.
No, that would be a super interesting meeting to be a fly on the wall, for sure, because it's been a very heated topic for quite some time, with the like we were talking about earlier, the older characters mainly being the big examples of, I guess, maybe even a different philosophy of game design than they have now, and that they just haven't taken the time to go rework or update them. I mean, another one of the answers talks about that at any one time they have a list of 8 to 10 characters that they want to rework. Right. And then they just kind of go through that list as needs come up or whatever. And it turns out that some of the old characters just haven't made it. I mean, Tyrande just made the list. Brightwing just made the list. Kerrigan just got finished. Like, these are, especially Brightwing and Kerrigan, are heroes that have been sitting for long time.
That is true.
On very original base kits. And so it's always been an interesting thing. I think for me, you'd have to kind of go, okay, first off, how long do we want these games to be? What is our ideal game time? That's kind of your starting point. And then how often is it okay to have to go back from lane? Because if you have to go back too many times, then you're making it unfun for the player. And you obviously are, it's too much. If you don't have to go back
times, but at the cost of, like, you're not even gaining a lot for spamming your abilities,
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
Which I felt was the case with Tyrael in many cases.
It's
anyway.
different. It's different per thing, but you have to have a limit on that. Once you have your game time, you have to have a limit on, okay, we're okay with a hero going back, assuming efficient mana use. We're okay with the hero having to go back this many X number of times, right? And so then you kind of start digging in from there to, okay, this hero is a pretty sustaining hero, so they probably won't have a lot of issues with mana because it's very steady healing or steady damage, whereas like these big burst damage or burst healers, it's just like, okay, we want them to have mana issues because we don't want them to go crazy like Li Ming. If Li Ming didn't have mana issues, then her resets would be absolutely bonkers. And so you have to limit those type of heroes in some way. And so mana issues are one of the tools they have at their disposal to fix those type of things. So I don't know. It's interesting. I think my philosophy would be to make sure that any given hero has at least one ability that is low mana usage, so that even when you are out of mana or getting low on mana for one reason or another, you still have something you can do.
Sure.
Just from
Makes
a fun
sense.
aspect. I think that would kind of be my rule of thumb when I was going to look and balance it. But then, yeah, it's a lot of just, it seems, testing play styles of the hero and the different kits, because it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah, it's kind of like I was suggesting there. Guys, we can't launch into deep dive conversations on each of these, or we won't get through any of them.
I agree. But the last one here that I wanted to, there was those two, or that one, and then this one that I was digging through. I found it, so I want to hit it while I found it because there's a ton of them. Is regarding to matchmaking and ranked play. I don't want to read the whole thing, but this was doesn't say who asked the question actually, but at least in what I'm looking at, doesn't have it. The response from Blizz Daybringer. I just want to read the last paragraph here. He says, lastly, we're taking a long, hard look at the entire rank play system. Removing queue restrictions from Team League is a small step towards larger changes. We think it's time to take a step back and take a look at our existing rank play framework. That's not the right paragraph. The one I was looking for.
That's still interesting, though, and ties into our earlier conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
In that maybe they are looking at TBK's model. But anyway, go on.
Yes. Dang it, can't find it now. Anyways, so right now ranked play is based on your rank. You have your rank and your MMR, which are separate. In some cases, those are becoming too divergent, too far apart, and it's making matching games very difficult. So they're taking a step back and looking at that and potentially making it, looking at the idea of getting rid of ranks, period, and matching off of MMR. So you don't have the two
something
things.
they've talked about doing, well, for quite a while, actually. Now, they've talked about switching to an MMR only system, and I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready to just remove that. It's kind of nice for some people because it's very simple and easy to read, right? But all you have to do is throw the real number up there and throw a gold, a silver, a bronze border around it.
The only
to kind of help out. But if they're adding in for themselves an extra level of complexity that's making matches hard to match up correctly, get rid of it.
The only thing that, and again, not launching into a discussion here, only thing that worries me about that is, like, right now we have the performance-based matchmaking system that they're working on towards coming out. That is specifically designed around rank and ranked points. It worries me if we go to this system. I mean, they would have to redesign that system from the ground up, I think, to...
Well, maybe they are.
If they did it.
Or
yeah,
maybe
that's
they
true.
have.
To affect MMR. Because
we haven't seen that system for forever.
It would have to be there, because if you're just going strictly based off of MMR and like existing MMR, things like that, that could be quite the grind for some people. So you still need something in there to reward for, winning streaks and being able to play well, things like that. Okay, I'm going to pass it to you guys. Those are the two I really wanted to hit. Multi. What's one that you are passionate about?
Passionate about. Oh man. Digging through this a little bit here. Let's see here.
He's passionate about all of it.
Super passionate about all of it. Let me just read the whole thing to you.
There was a lot of long questions and long answers in this one,
which is good.
There really
that's what
is.
we want. It's actually so. And a lot of times people go through the effort of condensing that information into summaries and that kind of thing. Even the ones that we have pulled up in front of us, it works. The summaries are well written for sure, but it is true. It's kind of hard to glean all the info you need out of those to get the full conversation without reading the full thing. And it's true. I mean, this only happened today. I've had a super busy day and haven't had the time to dig in every single specific thing here. But generally, so they bring up a lot of general topics as they go through this, but then there's also some hero-specific ones as well. So let me keep digging. I'll find something I'm super passionate about. But TBK, what's jumping out at you?
Everything.
There you go.
I want to just kind of pick and choose a few of the kind of cool little things they talked about. They did confirm Blackheart's Bay is going to be adjusted. But not to the extent of a complete mechanical overhaul like Garden.
Okay.
So it seems like we'll have somewhat of that base current mechanic.
They just need to make it more to keep that map PvP focused.
Yes, no, I completely agree. They need to take some of the emphasis on it is too easy to get ahead and then just PvE your way to victory.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. That is by far the worst part about that map in some ways. They also do want to keep making those special heroes that push boundaries like Abathur, like Cho'Gall. And I really like the idea of that. And they dug into it a little bit, saying things like they don't want to just do it to do it. And yet they have to be really careful when you make a hero like that, because not only does it have to be fun to play, it also has to be fun to play with and fun to play against.
Right.
And if you don't have all three of those pieces, you have release Murky. Essentially.
Those
that was man. Release Murky.
Those same heroes are cited in another conversation about just mobility creep in the game, and it's discussed in here from Liz Nyman that the mobility offered by like Tracer and Genji is considered a unique trait to them, similar to like the two-headedness of Cho'Gall, Abathur in general, Lost Vikings in the split. So they specifically say in here that essentially those heroes have movement without conditions. You just press a button and you move. But they're looking to move away from that and have heroes that have mobility, of course, but that have some sort of condition tied to it. Think in this case of Mephisto again. I mean, he's got a pretty decently sized, controllable distance blink, but then you have to snap back to the spot that you start at. So
I think a good example would be Illidan. He can close gaps really well, but you have to have a target to do it.
They cite that too. Target selection in Illidan's dive, and also things like range limitations and inability to travel over terrain, such as Lucio's movement speed. So the point he's really trying to make here is that they've been watching mobility in general across the board the entire time. Again, the question was coming up, and it's something we've mentioned on the show too, with specifically just Tracer and Genji and like Diva and some others being in such short span and all being Overwatch heroes, that we were kind of worried about mobility creep moving forward, but looks like that part comforted me.
Yeah, they've really pulled back a decent bit lately over the last several patches. I don't know, just a few more that caught my eye, and one really interesting thing that kind of was talked about during the special characters like Abathur, Cho'Gall type discussion is I believe it was Matt Villers that brought up again how they had tested Ragnaros as a core replacement hero.
Right.
but they didn't end up going with it because it just didn't fit the fantasy or the theme or what they wanted for Ragnaros. But that they were very much interested in doing something like that in the future.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and yes, that, and I mean, Overmind. It's just like, Overmind. I mean, whenever we get Overmind, that's I'm sure a thing. And then the whole fact that the team is ready to completely revamp a hero's role if needed. They talked about Tyrande and the shift of hers back to full support, and they even mentioned Tassadar potentially shifting him back to that Templar status.
Yep.
And potentially maybe
us.
shifting Tassadar to full damage.
That's exciting.
Which would be really, really cool. And then finally, they are going to look at low play rate heroes, because there are a lot of heroes that are a low play rate that aren't necessarily a low win rate, but there's a reason they're a low play rate. And it's most likely because they're not fun to play, or they're not interesting, or they need something else. And they mention Provius, Lost Vikings, and Chen, as I'm sure some people will be very happy about, that will get looked at some point.
Yeah.
Another one here for me, not going to read this because it's a huge one, but one from Zergling Hots. The main question was on like the infinite ammo versus ammo for turrets and how it's turned solo lane into a really boring position to play. And as Jackson responding to that, agreeing that there is an issue with solo lane right now. They're not sure if it's really connected to the infinite ammo versus ammo for turrets, but that's something they're discussing, and they're wanting to make the goal of this game, to reward offensive play. So that is something they're definitely looking at. I have seen that conversation a lot on Twitter, but this pertains to, I think, all of our listeners. If you're one of our higher skill level player listeners who plays solo lane correctly and thinks it's boring, they are looking at it, trying to figure out ways to reward offensive play style instead of just soaking a lane. If you are at my level or lower and play solo lane incorrectly, meaning you're super aggressive because you want to get that 250 experience from that tower, because that's a whole bunch and totally worth overextending and getting ganked for, don't do it, because it's not the right way to play right now. You just play safe in solo lane. So if you're doing Hero League and your hero gets picked or roll whatever, volunteer for off lane, because you can just sit there and play safe and then join your team for fights. Just don't lose lane. But that is an unfortunate side effect of the current meta of the game, I think. So
yeah,
hopefully it gets fixed.
I'll highlight one more here for me. There's a really interesting conversation that Blizz Cooper has with one of the people writing in about knockbacks and displacement. So I addressed the mobility creep we've discussed. We've also mentioned on the show the concern of displacement creep. And so I'm not going to go over everything. It's kind of like you were saying on the other one, a pretty in-depth conversation on the considerations that they place on this. It's just he uses some terms that are really interesting, such as like he delineates the difference between a knockback that has a stun tied to it versus one that just flat out knocks back. And they actually consider when you're traveling in the knockback time, they refer to that as being dazed. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, he then goes into like all the considerations that have to come into every single knockback. Like, is it so instant that it just instantly goes off and there's no counterplay to it? If so, the only counterplay to that is to do things like unstoppable, various other preemptive efforts to avoid the displacement. And then you can also use one of those abilities, but then whiff, and the other person gets it off after the fact. And, so there's so much counterplay there. But anyway, it was just an interesting conversation on it. Nothing really groundbreaking in terms of announcements, but it gets you in the headspace of all of the things that all of these hero designs have to take into consideration. And again, it just kind of talks through the Herculean effort that balancing all this stuff has to be.
Yeah. Again, guys, there's a ton here, a lot of really good information. Just take a gander through it, and we will have it in the show notes, but there's a lot. Any last stuff? All right, let's move on. not even giving you the chance.
Sweet.
Let's move on to the HGC. TBK, what's going on?
So you know how the Heroes Esports has the HGC minute, which is actually 3 minutes. I'm gonna try and match that time frame, and so this is gonna be like the Lords of the Storm HGC minute in 3 minutes or something.
All right, let me wait. Hold on. Starting. Go.
Okay, so jumping in real quick, I talked about Charonda. She's back. She was played in week 9 alone, 36 games, and banned in 21 others. Holy crap, 92% participation rate, but with only a 47% win rate. So, interesting. Just interesting. Let's see. There are more confirmations for confirm their spots for the HGC finals at BlizzCon. First off, I'm going to take most of the time to talk about Heroes Hearth. And game 2, or their second game win against Team Freedom, which clinched them the BlizzCon spot, was won with a Twin Blade variant. So
perfect.
It was. I had so many people tweeting at me, and yes, I watched it. It was a glorious series. Made me super happy.
You got 2 minutes left.
Oh,
you should probably
cool.
move
So
on
much
from
time.
Twin Blade variant.
No, more
hard.
Twin Blades, please.
more Twin Blades. More Twin Blades. 2 teams confirmed their spots for the HGC finals. Luna Meow and Team Dignitas had already confirmed their spot, but this weekend brought 4 more, bringing us to half of the 12 teams. On Saturday, Australia and New Zealand's top team Mind Freak took down Latin America's Thunder Predator 4-1 to win the Intercontinental Clash in Sydney, Australia. And they will be joining BlizzCon. As I said, Heroes Hearth Esports qualified after their winning game 2 against Team Freedom on Saturday, taking first place seed. And Genji secured the first place position in HGC Korea. And Tempest also solidified their spot in second to qualify for the HGC finals. So 1 week left, and then we go into the playoffs and then the Crucible.
Right.
The big thing is the Crucible at NA. This weekend will decide. Simplicity, Looking for More, and No Tomorrow all fighting to try and stay out of the Crucible for the NE side. The NE side, where where the Tempo Storm, Freedom, Octalysis, Endemic, and then whatever other team does not hit the Crucible will fight it out in the playoffs and decide who wins our little bet that we made last week. On the EU side, the Crucible spots have already been decided, with Roll20 Esports and Monkey Menagerie taking the bottom 2 spots, leaving Granite, Method, Leftovers, Fnatic, and Team Liquid to fight over the last 2 spots for the EU side of things. It's going to get spicy, guys.
What was the time?
Holy Bananas versus Monkey Menagerie. Oh, is that it? Are you done?
It seems like it's done.
2 minutes
that's
and
it.
57 seconds.
Hey, pretty good.
I got you.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not too bad. All right. Community content. What do you got?
So this is actually really cool. We talked a lot about solo lanes today, and it turns out that Jehao and Goku from Octalysis teamed up, and they made a solo lane matchup chart. And it is absolutely incredible. Like it goes through basically every solo lane matchup versus every solo lane matchup. It's a huge chart that you can just look through to see, like,
Is this
what your possibility of winning versus the other solo lane hero are.
So this
and
is
then
supposed
even
to be
has
like
tips.
Is this the numbers? Are those like just like a percentile
Yeah, I'm guessing
matchup
so.
chance?
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
Percent
like-
chance.
Green would be good. Yellow, orange, and red is what it looks like.
And you're reading from the left, so like the ones going
your
down
hero-
the y-axis, essentially, the left, the vertical column, is your hero, right? And then
Yes.
as you're going through each column, it's you get it. So
Well, and you could even use this. This is great for like to have up in Hero League or Team League or whatever. If you see what they draft as a solo laner, you know, if you're playing solo lane, you can kind of look to see what matches up well against them if that's any of your heroes. It is really neat. a lot
Yeah,
of work.
no,
They do these. I was just gonna say they do these types of charts in Hearthstone all the time, of course, because there's all the different deck archetypes that you can match up in this same exact format. Question here though, so in Hearthstone, often a lot of that's built up by raw data. Are they mostly going subjective on these numbers, or are they pulling data from somewhere? Do you know?
I assume they're pulling data. I mean, being Jayhow and Goku, this is probably very.
I'm sure it's
very
thorough
data.
as heck.
Very
I
data
just don't
driven.
know, like.
The one thing I would actually just say screw the numbers and look at the tab that's called tips for matchups. And this I think gives the most comprehensive view. So like just for example, looking at Alarak, if you're playing Alarak versus Artanis, poke him as much as you can with E, slowly chunk him out with combo. Alarak versus Arthas, freeze the lane, let Arthas push and just freeze. Don't try and kill him. Versus Blaze, be as offensive as possible. If Blaze uses D, just telekinesis away from him with Wave. But that's a red matchup, so it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah.
And so, like, I love this thing. This thing is absolutely amazing, and I'm going to use this all the time now.
Yeah, it's neat. It's very neat.
That tab is incredible. Like anytime you can get just a one-liner tip that totally changes the way you play through half the game, that is just gold information.
Yeah, it's huge.
All right. And we did have a question this week, but we are running a little late here. We're old now. And
I'm
past our
super old.
bedtime.
Just for the record. And perhaps Yelly, the answer to your question is related to the fact that I'm super old.
That is true.
But we'll get to that next week. We want to discuss it a bit more in depth.
Yes.
The short answer to your question, Yelly, is maybe. There you go.
And also, we're old.
And also, hopefully.
And also really old. But yeah.
And back to we're old. Before we get out of here, though, real quick, Multi, why don't you tell people where we can be reached?
Oh, you can find us on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and Patreon at Lords of the Storm. You can also find us in-game by typing /join/LOTS. I had an extra slash in there. There's a space in there. Whatever, you're fine. Or you can join our Discord, bit.ly/lotsdiscord. You can email us with feedback or questions at lordsofthestorm@outlook.com. And if you want to help out the show, a couple ways of doing it. I mentioned the Patreon. That's probably the better way. But you could also leave us a review. Those are actually super helpful. So there you go. How was that?
I like it.
That was really good. That was
really
good. You can also find us individually, myself, on Twitter, Twitch, at GizmoZord, as well as on Convert Trade Presents the Battle.net News, the World of Warcraft podcast about all things Blizzard, which is still currently on hiatus. Pat is making his way across the country to California. And who knows when the new studio that has not been named will be up and running. Only time will tell. Multi,
right.
Where can you be reached?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Multizord. I'm also on another show called Hearth Casual about Hearthstone. And this is an off week, but they actually just dropped the most news of Hearthstone that we've ever seen, maybe. I don't know. So we're toggling the idea of maybe doing one this week. I honestly might make that call tomorrow based on how many times my son wakes up screaming in the middle of the night. So if it's not very many, maybe we'll do it.
Rip the one thing that I was waiting for to be like, all right, I'm gonna give Hearthstone another shot.
I know there's a lot of people in that boat, but there was a lot of good news in there too. I don't know, and I got some theories that are optimistic in nature. All right, so we'll be all right.
I'll leave that to you.
Listen to Hearth Casual
Yes.
for all the details.
TBK, where can you be found?
I'm on Twitter at TBKZord, and of course over on the Heroes Hearths, where maybe I'll bring back my old Team League article and do a little revamp on that, because the discussion was really interesting, and so that may have sparked a few.
But you won't
thoughts.
have
Maybe
me
that'll
to
turn into a
counter
blog.
you.
I know. See, that's why I love this show. Is that it's just such a good bouncing block off and back and forth, and
Yeah, that's true.
It makes for very interesting debates. I like it.
It really, I mean, it's a good point, because I don't know how many times on this show I've thought I have a really good idea and I'm super stoked about it, and then I mention it, and then instantly it's like you guys just demolish it, and it's like, Gizmo, you are
You mean you want to remove
moron
mana from the game? Like,
What?
okay, that would that. Sure, we'll use that as an example. But yeah, it's humbling.
Sure.
Before we get out
good.
of here, I want to give a special thanks to our patron producer, Ouroboros Sword, for helping support the show. I really do appreciate it. As well as Wicked Kitten, our mod, keeping things cool in chat.
Yeah, until she,
Goes to bed.
cut out on us.
Until next time, there's a lot you can read. I have nothing witty this week. We'll see you next time. Wednesday, 9 p.m. Central. See you there.
Enough. I shall do no more.